So good. We have everyone coming in. Looks like we have a few more people who have joined our meeting. Looks like where everyone's trickling in. Again, good afternoon. This is Mike Foster, account executive here at Stone Edge Technologies. Wanted to welcome everyone and thank you for attending. We will be beginning in about 1 minute, getting everything set up and getting everyone squared away. Um, just a few housekeeping notes. We will be having this available as a recording at the end. You will receive that as part of your registration. Um, if you have questions, we do have the Q&A section, and we will have a Q&A time at the end of the session today. So all mics will be muted. However, we were looking forward to getting your feedback, response, questions so that we can get those interests answered. Right, so we're about a minute out. So I think we're going to go ahead and begin as people continue to get in to the room. So good afternoon to everyone. My name is Mike Foster. I'm account executive here at Stone Edge Technologies. Today we have the honor of introducing one of our newest partners, AccurateTax. They are a tax compliance solution that we are partnering with to help to bring more diversified offerings to the Stone Edge technology community. We are super excited about having them join us and are giving them the opportunity to speak to you all about something we know that is very important. Sales tax, and most importantly, streamline sales tax, and kind of talk to you about what they do and how they do it, as well as give just a great educational perspective on the situation. Um, this will be presented by Ms. Susan Pacheco today. So at this time, I will allow myself to step back, and Susan, you can go ahead and take over and present.
Hi, Mike. Hi, everybody. Mike, thanks for the introduction. I appreciate it. I am glad to see that we've got people here who are interested in becoming or learning more about being in compliance with sales tax. It's not something any of us really likes to talk about. None of us cares for taxes, but it's definitely important when we're in business. So I'm really glad that you've taken time out of your day to spend with us, and I appreciate your being here. I want to start a little bit with a history of how we got to where we are today. Back in 1992, the internet was brand new. Nobody was doing e-commerce yet. I don't even know if the term had been coined yet. But most of the across state lines retail sales were being done through mail order and phone orders from people who were doing catalogs. And at that time, several of the states wanted to compel those catalog merchants to collect sales tax from the customers in states where the catalog company did not have a presence. And this went up to the Supreme Court and resulted in what's known as the Quill decision. And what the Supreme Court said was that if a business did not have a physical location, also known as a nexus, in a given state, then that state could not compel them to collect sales tax from the shoppers in that state and pay it to the state sales tax authority. This, it was what it was for catalog merchants, but it stuck around and became the basis of the debate for online sales tax as e-commerce started and grew. But as e-commerce became more popular, the urgency that the states felt to require businesses to collect sales tax grew and grew because they were losing revenue from customers who were not paying sales tax because they were buying from a company in a different state. Several different types of legislation were halfway passed. I mean, it might have gone through the House, but not the Senate or whatever. Some of these were like marketplace fairness is a good example, but these were debated for several years. And finally, South Dakota came after Wayfair, a retailer that you've probably heard of. They sell a lot of home goods and are pretty big, as well as a few other retailers, and said, okay, we don't care about the Quill decision. You have to collect sales tax. And they took them to court. And this court battle worked its way all the way up to the Supreme Court. And in 2018, the Supreme Court passed what is now known as the Wayfair decision. And what they didn't really come up with some kind of a national sales tax system or anything like that. They simply overturned the Quill decision and said, okay, even if a retailer doesn't have a physical presence in a state, you can still make them collect sales tax, and that's going to be up to the individual states. As this has gone along, most of the states have now created what is known as economic nexus laws. Nexus is a fancy word of saying presence, and it was used in a physical sense to mean like you had an office there or you had employees in the state. But now economic nexus really means even if you don't have a physical presence in the state, you have a certain minimum presence based on the fact that you are selling into the state. Currently, 44 states, as well as the District of Columbia, have these economic nexus laws. And all except one also have what's known as a small seller exemption. So if you sell enough money or enough individual orders into a given state that has an economic nexus law, such that you are above that small seller exemption, then you have to start collecting sales tax from your customers that live in those or that are having orders shipped to those states. And of those 44 states, or of the ones that don't have economic nexus laws, only Florida and Missouri are the only two states that collect sales tax that don't have these laws. So it's almost everybody. This has become really important in today's economy, in today's climate for online sellers, because it means that you now have a lot more requirements that you have to meet in multiple states that you didn't have to meet prior to the Wayfair decision. It's also changed the way that your business process may work as it relates to sales tax. An example of this business process is that first you have to determine what your current nexus states are. Previously, it was pretty easy to determine where you had a physical nexus. It was where you had an office, where you had employees, and there are a few other things that can create physical nexus, such as attending trade shows in certain states, drop shipping, having a warehouse, things like that. But compared to economic nexus, it's pretty simple. With economic nexus, each state has its own rules. It's a bit of a Wild West type situation. Most of them, with the exception of Kansas, have the small seller exemption. And the small seller exemption says that if you sell under a certain dollar amount or under a certain number of orders, then you're exempt. You don't have to collect sales tax. We're not going to worry about you. So that makes it a little bit easier on mom and pops, but it does mean that once you hit those thresholds, you now become liable for collecting sales tax in those states. And once you have a list of the states where you have a nexus, you have to register in each of these states. The registration process differs for each state. I think everybody has online registration now, although some still allow paper registrations, but the process is a little bit different. The form is different for each state. So you're doing the same kind of work, but not in a repeatable process type of way. Once you've registered and you have your account set up, you then have to collect the right sales tax from the shoppers that are shipping orders to these states. That sales tax rate depends on, or that sales tax amount depends on the rate of the address to which you are shipping. It depends on the items in the order and their taxability, and it depends on the date. For example, if you're selling something that is tax exempt for a sales tax holiday reason, then it's only exempt for a couple of days and not the rest of the year. You collect that money from each order and keep it in your bank account. And then monthly or quarterly or whatever the requirement is based on your level of sales and your agreement with the states, you then have to file your sales tax return and send in the money that you have collected from each order as a payment for that sales tax period. The reason that we call this a sales tax life cycle is it doesn't just end there. You've got to keep an eye on where you may be developing a new nexus that you didn't previously have one before. This is actually kind of a good thing because what it reflects is the fact that your business is probably growing. We're lucky that we're seeing in these times of COVID and it's maybe the only lucky thing that we have related to COVID, but we are seeing a lot of growth across the board in e-commerce. Of course, e-commerce has grown year over year since it first started, but it's had really kind of a new explosion with people staying home, wanting to go out and be exposed, potentially exposed to the virus less often. So more people are doing online shopping. So as your business grows in these various states where you haven't previously had a nexus, you have to pay attention to when you are approaching these thresholds and will no longer qualify as a small seller, and you won't get that exemption. So as soon as you add a new state, you have to go back to the top of this list and start registering and collecting and filing for the new state, just like you have for previous ones. So that all sounds pretty difficult, and it can be, for sure.
Hey, Susan.
Yeah. Go
Hey,
ahead.
Susan. I think you made some great points there. With economic nexus, we are seeing, just in the last few months and things like that, we've seen businesses have to change and have to adjust. I think this is a great time for our first poll question. If you don't mind, everyone on the phone, we're going to throw out a poll question and essentially just ask, answer to your best ability as we go through this. And first question is, in the last 18 months, the number of states that you have created economic nexus in is less than 5 states, 5 to 15 states, 15 plus states, or I have no idea. We'll give you all a few minutes to kind of go through this, but I think this is a great time to ask this question. I think every business over the last 18 months has had to do some sort of adjustment, some sort of flexibility, whether it's your employees are going back home, whether you've had employees that relocated outside of the state or into a different county or a different taxing jurisdiction, whether you planned on hiring, if it's changed your hiring practices moving forward, or your business has just increased enough that it has warranted those initial ideas. It's great kind of feedback, great for everyone to know these sort of things. Great, so we'll give it 5 more seconds. And thank you all for your questions and for your answers.
Mike, that reminded me of something that I wanted to add here. One of the things that's become very popular in the last part of last year and again in 2021 is what's called BOPIS, or buy online and pick up in store. So we're seeing a lot of orders from certain retailers that aren't shipped, but instead are placed and paid for online, but then picked up in the store or delivered in the parking lot. And that kind of changes things too. The sales taxability is different in those cases.
Absolutely. We all have pulled up into the parking lot, right, to have an employee run out and put something in our car, but it's amazing how that does change the scope of everything.
Sure does.
So, and it looks like, it looks like based on the results, most people have added, they've created economic nexus in less than 5 states. But I will say, it's with all of the new ways that economic nexus has been created, it's great to see that everyone is working through those questions, or working through and understanding things. So thanks a lot, Susan, for allowing me to interrupt there.
Sure, and thanks everybody for providing the answers to the question. So now I want to keep getting on the wrong screen there. I want to introduce Streamline sales tax. You may have heard of this. It's been around for quite a while. But if not, or if you've heard of it and don't know what it is, I'll give you a little bit of information about them here. It's a group of 24 member states that have agreed to simplify the way sales tax works. They've agreed to simplify their legislation, which is big. How cumbersome it can be to change laws in different states. So they've all agreed to conform to certain requirements as it comes to that legislation, and also to streamline the processes around calculating and collecting and remitting sales tax by and from retailers. So it's you can see, looking at the map here, that about half of the country is covered. The medium blue states and the light blue state, which is Tennessee, are all the participating states. And these are the ones that currently can be, you can use software to conform to their processes and benefit from using Streamline sales tax in all of these 24 states, including Tennessee. The dark blue states, there's 5 of them, some of them are hard to see. Those are the states that have no statewide sales tax. Alaska does allow jurisdictions to have individual sales tax, like cities or counties or such, but they don't have a statewide sales tax. So we kind of take those out of the mix. And then all of the gray, white, and Pennsylvania, the vertically striped ones, those are non-participatory. So you can see of the states where you have to collect sales tax, or where someone would have to collect sales tax, that about half of them participate in Streamline sales tax. So this can help your processes by cutting down on about half of the amount of states that you're having to deal with individually. When you start to look at a sales tax software provider and want to determine which one is the best fit for your business, there's a lot of things to consider, but one thing that you might not have thought about before is looking to see whether they are a Streamline sales tax certified service provider. The Streamline sales tax group does have a website, and the service providers are listed there. I'm plugging this, obviously. We are a Streamline sales tax certified service provider. We've been certified since 2011. So we're celebrating our 10th year with Streamline Sales Tax, and we're also a founding member of the National Association of Certified Service Providers. So this Streamline Sales Tax is something that we really believe in. We think the benefit is really great for retailers, and we like to make sure that people are aware of this so that they know they have this opportunity. Now, how does Streamline Sales Tax help you? There are definitely some major benefits. I'm going to list 4 of them here. These are the main reasons that you would want to choose a certified service provider over a non-certified one. The first benefit you get is that you get the use of the certified software free in almost every case. Specifically, if you are a Streamline sales tax seller, a CSP compensated seller, and you're selling into a state that is an SST state, and you don't have a physical nexus in that state, then your use of the software for every order that's shipped to that state that's calculated, it's free. You don't pay anything for the use of the software for any of those transactions. The CSPs are compensated by the state as a way of helping you be in compliance and kind of I'll rub your back, you were fine situation. The second benefit is that it simplifies the reporting and payment processes. It's all done electronically through the CSP software. It's done with a single process as opposed to 24 different processes, and really takes the burden of having to do your filings and your payments periodically for each of those 24 states, and does it in one easy process. The third benefit is liability relief. So if there's a sales tax calculation error and you've undercollected, and the first thing that the state's going to do is talk to your CSP, and then if it's determined that there's a mistake in the software, there's no liability to you in that case. And the other thing that happens is that we provide audit support. So if a state feels like you need to be audited and they come after you to do a sales tax audit, again, we're their first point of contact. The certified service provider is the first people they talk to. And what they're trying to do is limit the bothersome nature of you having to deal with a sales tax audit. And then you probably start to consider then whether are you ready to participate? Do you want to participate as a Streamline sales tax CSP compensated seller? And what I usually tell people here is it really depends on how burdensome sales tax is for you. If you are only collecting sales tax in 1 or 2 states and you have your processes down and you don't really have a whole lot of things changing for you, then this may be overkill. But as your business grows and you develop that economic nexus in multiple states, it's going to get more difficult and take up more of your time, and your exposure to problems is going to become greater because you're having to do this more often. And that's when you really want to start considering becoming a Streamline sales tax seller because of the benefits that you get. I'd like to introduce our software just a little bit. The base package does real-time sales tax calculations. So this is happening at the point of sale online. If someone is checking out on your website and they get into the checkout process and they've got all their items in the basket and they pick their shipping method and so forth, it's then going to call out to our server and send us information about that order so that we can tell you how much sales tax to collect for that order. We keep all of this information so that you can pull tax reports whenever you need them. The reports can be done by a date range and or by jurisdiction. So if you're doing your own sales tax filings and you need the information in order to fill out the different forms, we've got that available for you. AccurateTax integrates with many major shopping carts, and chances are that whatever cart you're using, we either already have an integration for it or it's on our radar and will be supported soon. If you are using a custom solution or a smaller cart that we don't have plans for integration, we do have an API. So you can have a developer write a piece of software that acts as a go-between between your website and AccurateTax. So that is available as well. AccurateTax integrates with StoneEdge Order Manager. So if you're adding new orders or editing orders in StoneEdge and you need to recalculate sales tax, that all can happen behind the scenes for you. And we also support batch data import. So say you have a legacy system or a POS system or something that doesn't have the ability to talk to AccurateTax, or for some reason you don't want it to, but you want to be able to transfer data to us so that it shows up in reports and such, we can support that as well. We also have some services that go along with this. You don't have to use any of these services. They're all optional, but I want to make sure that you're aware of them. We have a nexus determination service where we can help you, we can gather information from you and help you determine which states you have an economic nexus in, or which ones you are close to developing a nexus in, as well as determining physical nexus as well. We offer registration support for Streamline sellers in Streamline states. This is done through that software, but we also do it for non-Streamline sales tax sellers and non-SST states as well. We can help you get registered with the states. We offer filing and remittance services. So when you, generally it's monthly or quarterly, you have to do your sales tax return and make a payment. We can do that, again, SST as well as non-SST states. And we offer exemption certificate management. So if you as a retailer have customers who themselves are tax exempt, they may be that way because they are a nonprofit, or it may be that they're buying items for resale and they would like to not be charged sales tax when they place an order on your site, then we can help with that by doing what's called exemption certificate management. And I'll show you a little bit more detail about that in a bit. It's pretty easy to get started with us. I want to give you an overview of how you would set up AccurateTax if you're a new customer. You just sign up for a free trial account that lets you determine whether we're the right fit for you and to confirm that our rates and everything are accurate, which they are, but I'd like for you to see it for yourself. You then add your store locations. There may just be one, or you may have multiple locations to add. You identify the states where you need to collect sales tax. If you have an e-commerce site, you install the module or the plugin for your shopping cart. And if you use StoneEdge Manager, then you set up a couple of things in there and you're good to go. This is a screenshot of the main settings page on our portal. So if you log into your account, you can see at the top where you would add your store locations. You answer a few questions and we can help you with those if you need. And then we also show you your account information as well as the call count. So for non-SSTP use of the software, the pricing is based on the number of calls your website makes out to our server. And we can let you see on a monthly basis how many of those calls you have left. Here's an example of what the setup screen looks like inside a shopping cart. This one specifically is for Viva Merchant. The one for Magento looks a little bit different. The one for OpenCart looks a little bit different, etc. But they all do basically the same thing. You put in your account information. You tell us whether your shipping charges do or do not include a handling fee, because that can affect the taxability of the shipping charges. And then you decide whether you want to perform address validation on all addresses or just on the addresses where you charge sales tax. And then you check off the states where you have where you're collecting sales tax. And for all other states, it won't call out to us. It'll just put in a $0 sales tax line item. But in this example, the 4 states that are checked, it will call us and determine the right sales tax amount, which will then get added to the shopper's order prior to them completing the order. In Stone Edge, there are a few system parameters. You set us as the sales tax system you're using, and then you enter your checksum and license key, and everything's ready to go then. So it's pretty simple to get started and to get everything set up, but we do have more detailed and granular settings if you need them. I don't want this to be overwhelming, but I do want to make sure that you understand that it's supported. So we have product tax classifications. If you sell special products, say medical equipment or food or things that are taxed differently in certain situations, then you can classify those products as such. You can classify shipping charges as well. Thing we talked about earlier, where you buy online and pick up in store, generally has a different way of being taxed than, say, UPS ground. So you may need to set something like that. We offer the ability to set tax classes for each type of charge in your store. So coupons, discounts, delivery extras like a lift gate, or if you have to have a signature required upon delivery, you can set special classes for those. Again, all of these are optional. I would say the majority of our customers don't need to use them, but it is there when you have them. We offer support for custom tax rules. Now, this kind of sounds funny because we don't get to make up our own taxability rules, of course, but let me give a couple of examples of how this would come into play. The first would be the state of Alabama. If you are a remote seller in Alabama, you can charge sales tax based on the address of the shopper where it's being shipped to, or you can simply charge 8% across the board to every single address inside the state of Alabama. The way our software works is to do it based on the destination, but if you wanted to override that for some reason and do the 8% statewide, then you can. A second example would be if you have to collect excise taxes for some reason, in addition to sales taxes. We support the ability to do that as well. We offer support for tax thresholds. The best example of this is in the state of New York, where people are, if you buy a piece of clothing, that clothing is not taxable since it's a necessary item unless it costs over $110, in which case it's considered a luxury item, and then it is subject to tax at that point. So we support that kind of a threshold. And I think I mentioned this earlier, but we also support sales tax holidays. So if you are selling into a state that currently has a back to school holiday on school supplies and computers and such, or a weather preparedness holiday on generators and batteries and things of that nature, then we support that as well. I did say I was going to talk a little bit more about exemption certificates. So when you have tax exempt customers, you have to be able to prove to the state that you're not supposed to collect sales tax for them. And in order to do that, you collect from the shopper an exemption certificate. And if you're using us for this exemption certificate management, what happens is that your customer provides you, the merchant, with their exemption certificate for one or more states. You then forward those certificates to AccurateTax. You can send it to us via email or upload it through the system. And then we confirm that information with the state. We make sure that they're not being fraudulent and giving you fake information, or that it's not, it hasn't been withdrawn for some reason, like whatever reason might be. But we make sure that it's valid. And as long as it is, we then create a customer exempt code. You put that in your customer record. And then whenever that customer goes to check out on your website, they become an exempt customer and they are not charged sales tax. And by way of example, these are a couple of screenshots from our system as it relates to exemption certificates. So for this example, AccurateTax customer, you can see a list of 4 of their customers who are tax exempt at the top. And you have the ability to search by name or by date range for these customers. And if you click any of these, in this example, I clicked the first line for the first My Pretend Customer 1, that would be the shopper. You can see that this shopper has exemption in six different states, and therefore they have 6 different exemption certificates. You can see what their tax ID number is, the start date, and if it exists, an expiration date for the exemption certificate. And we can, if you choose, handle that communication with your shoppers to let them know that their certificate is going to be expiring, say, next quarter, If they want to maintain their tax exempt status, they need to send in an updated certificate. And if they don't do that and the certificate expires, then they would revert to being a taxable customer. And when they go through checkout, they would be taxed again at that point. So that's a pretty good overview of what we do and how we support Streamline Sales Tax and how it can help you. I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys may have. If you want to go back through this slideshow for any of the information I've shared, we do have it on our SlideShare account. And I've got several ways that you can contact us through social media or directly here as well.
Well, Susan, that was a fantastic presentation that you gave. It's amazing the amount of services that you all offer, the comprehensive level of it, the detail that's there is really strong. After presenting all that, I'm going to go ahead and throw out another poll question here around, just based off of what we've seen through all the services that you have and the way things are running and the technology and the way your exemption certificates, your sales tax, your returns are all tied together, based on that, look, how confident are you in your current sales tax practices? Were you here today just to kind of get your brain to grow and do different things? But you think you're okay, but after the day, you might need to double check, or you have no idea, and you want to have this addressed. Help me. I think it's okay to be in all those positions. One thing about sales tax is that it's constantly changing, and you really do need to have a provider be able to help you manage the rules, manage the changes, and automate a lot of these processes. It's just becoming something that needs to be done, and we're glad to be able to offer another fantastic sales tax provider who is going to help us to diversify our offerings, because just like our customers, we need to make sure we can have someone that fits for every type of business out there. So I'm going to just close that poll up. Great. So, if you all have questions, please feel free. I know we've seen some of them pop up and we've shared some of them that we've answered, but I think there's been a few more that I wanted to kind of put out there, Susan, to you, if you've got a couple of minutes here.
Sure.
To talk about it. One of the things you talked about, one of the big parts of it is SST, and I know there's a limited number of SST providers. So this is a question that I thought was really good, because it's a tough it's a tough topic to find really good answers on. How do you sign up with SST?
That's a great question. If you're going to use a certified service provider like us, then you can work through us and we can help you get signed up with them as part of your onboarding process. And that's very simple. You can also sign up with them directly on their website, which is streamlinesalestax.org. They have a button right there on the homepage that you can use to sign up. And during that process, they will ask you if you are going to use a CSP and to choose which one of those to use. So those are the two different methods that you would use to sign up as an SST seller.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Yeah.
One of the things you mentioned, and I guess this is kind of a two-part question. One of the things you mentioned in your presentation was a free trial.
Mm-hmm.
How does someone go about, this is something that I don't think I've ever heard of in this space or this industry, so I think it's fantastic. But how does one go about, next steps with you, getting set up, contacting you? Tell me a little bit about that process of getting in touch, interacting with you, learning more about how you all can work together, getting set up for possibly a trial, and getting your account set up.
Great. Yes. We like to make it as easy as possible. So you can call us, you can email us, you can Facebook message us, whatever suits you. We can get you set up with a free trial. We don't need your credit card for the free trial. We just need it for when you start actually using us. If you do want any of the extra services, or if you want to sign up with SST, it is better to give us a call. And in order to be able to provide pricing information as such, we need to be able to ask you a few questions as far as determining what your usage would be. So that's another way. You can email us about that too. We can always answer by email. But whatever is, whatever you're most comfortable with and whatever your time frame allows, just give us a ring, however you want to do it. And we're happy to get you set up and let you start trying it and see what you like.
That's great. That's really great. I love the idea of, and I love this position of, we just reach out and people on the phone, you can reach out to Stone Edge directly. AccurateTax has their information on there, and we're able to really kind of get you all in touch, sit down, talk about your individual situation, how it works, and what needs to be done. Last question, and I don't think it's something that we really have not touched on much. How does AccurateTax, and how are you integrating with everyone else? Are you really easy to integrate with other e-commerce tools? And because Stone Edge, we have a lot of e-commerce attachments. We have a lot of platforms that are attached in. Are you all able to attach and easily to connect to all the different shopping carts like CV3 and BigCommerce, Shopify, and things like that, Miva Commerce, so that everything stays streamlined and ready to go?
We are currently integrated with a number of shopping carts. CV3 is not one of them, and I see Jeff's question here, so I do want to answer that. But we are working on adding additional shopping carts. We are trying to do as many of those in-house as we have the ability to do. Some of them are use technology that we don't have an expertise in, and in that case, we may end up outsourcing some to a developer who has more expertise in, say, ASP.NET or something. Because we don't tend to use Microsoft technologies here directly. We do integrate with Magento. And so we've got a number of others on our radar, WooCommerce, Shopify, some of those. So it kind of depends on what the technology is and what the demand is.
And Susan, another great point about that is, again, Stone Edge users, we love customizations. You talk about working with developers, how about the Stone Edge in-house development team? It's a great place for us to work with an AccurateTax Stone Edge partner. With our custom hooks that are built into the Stone Edge order management software, we're able to attach and adjust on and get you guys set up without changing the ultimate the skeletal bones of Stone Edge, which is great because once you upgrade, we just continue to attach those upgrades to the system, and you don't have to go through a lot of hoops to get things, get your third-party connections to continue working. So if you all have a website or an e-commerce or shopping cart, something that you want to run this through, a marketplace or something that you want to run this through, and maybe AccurateTax doesn't have it ready to go, let's look to inside of Stone Edge, and we'll work along with AccurateTax to see if we can't get that built out and customized for you.
And if you also have a developer that you work with for a particular shopping cart, and you want to put us in touch, we're always happy to entertain something like that as well. So
absolutely,
whatever you've got. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for spending the time and sitting with us. Thank you, Susan, and thank you, AccurateTax. I think this was a fantastic presentation. Lots to learn. Again, AccurateTax is offering fantastic, diverse levels of service at a cost-effective price. Please reach out to them, reach out to us. Let's all get together and figure out, based on your business, what services work best for you. I think it's a great opportunity to also check and see the validity of your current service. If you have a service, find out the pricing, and if it works for you to benefit you, to have a little competition in the books. Always good. So if there are additional questions, again, my name is Mike Foster, and I am Mike at stoneedge.com. And we do have AccurateTax Susan here as well, and you can reach them at info@accuratetax.com or 1-866-400-2444. Thank you all for attending. This will be coming out via the recording. You will have it. We appreciate your time today. Take care and have a fantastic day.
Thank you, everyone.